The crimson sky of Zephyr Prime stretched endlessly above the crystal spires of the royal palace. Princess Akira stood on the highest tower, her silver skin catching the light of 3 suns. Her violet eyes scanned the darkness of space, searching for a ship that never came. 10 Earth years had passed since Captain Nicole Matthews of the human exploration vessel had promised to return with supplies and knowledge to help save Akira's dying world. Akira was not like other Zephyrin women. While her sisters played games of power and politics in the lower halls, she had spent decades learning about the distant blue planet called Earth. She taught herself the strange human language. She studied their art, their music, their way of thinking. When Nicole's ship emerged from hyperspace 5 years ago, everything changed. The human captain was brave, brilliant, and kind. She brought medicine that saved thousands of Zephyrin lives. More importantly, she brought hope. During those precious 3 months on Zephyr Prime, Nicole and Akira had become more than allies. They had become friends, sisters of different worlds. Akira showed Nicole the ancient libraries where her people stored knowledge. Nicole taught Akira about freedom and choice, concepts that seemed almost foreign to Zephyrin culture. They spent nights under the stars talking about dreams and fears. Akira had never felt this way before, like someone truly understood who she was beneath the title of princess. On the day Nicole's ship left orbit, Akira stood in the same tower and watched the vessel disappear into the void. Nicole had promised to return within 1 year with a larger team and more medical supplies. The promise had been clear and certain. Akira waited. Then 1 year became 2, and 2 became 5, and 5 became 10. The world around Akira had not stood still during her waiting. Her father, the great King Valorian, had grown older and weaker. The plague that Nicole's medicine had temporarily stopped had returned, mutating into new forms. Akira's position as princess had become something more demanding and more isolating. The royal council expected her to take a husband from among the noble families. They pressured her to produce heirs. They wanted her to focus on politics and duty rather than dreams of alien friends and distant promises. But Akira had refused every suitor. She turned down alliances with the most powerful families. She ignored the angry looks from the elder council members. Something deep inside told her that Nicole would return. She held on to this belief even when everyone around her stopped believing. The years had been lonely and difficult. Her mother, Queen Celestina, had begged her to be realistic. Her older brother, Prince Kale, had told her that humans could not be trusted, that Nicole had simply moved on to other worlds and forgotten about a small planet at the edge of the galaxy. Yet Akira had continued to wait. She spent her days studying human history and culture. She learned every detail about Earth that she could find in the old databases. She imagined what Nicole might be doing, what adventures she might be having among the stars. Sometimes Akira wondered if Nicole thought about her too, if the human captain ever looked up at the stars and wondered how Akira was doing. These thoughts kept her going through the loneliest years of her life. The royal council had become more aggressive in their demands. They said that without a husband and heirs, the kingdom would weaken. They suggested that perhaps the princess had become too attached to alien ideas, too influenced by the human visitor. Some whispered that she was unfit to rule. Akira had ignored them all. She had her duties as princess, yes, but she also had something else, something more important to her. She had a promise to keep faith in, and a friend she believed would return. Her father had sympathized with her, understanding the depth of her connection to Nicole. But even the king could not protect her forever from the pressure of tradition and duty. When her father fell ill 2 years ago, the council had intensified their demands. Now, with the king recovering slowly but never quite regaining his full strength, Akira found herself bearing more responsibility than ever. She made decisions about the plague treatments, about trade agreements with other worlds, about the defense of Zephyr Prime against the occasional pirate ships that came too close to their borders. Through it all, she had never stopped going to that tower. She had never stopped scanning the stars for the ship that had carried Nicole away. Then something unexpected happened. A distress signal came through the old communication system that Nicole had installed. It was weak and broken, but Akira recognized the signature frequency immediately. Her heart nearly stopped. The message took 3 days to fully decode, but when it finally came through, Akira's hands shook as she read it. The message said that Nicole's ship had encountered a terrible accident in deep space. The vessel had been damaged beyond easy repair near a black hole. The crew had barely escaped with their lives. They had been stranded in a remote sector, cut off from normal space travel routes. Nicole had spent the last 5 years trying to repair the ship and find a way home. She had never forgotten her promise. She had never stopped trying to return. Akira felt tears streaming down her silver cheeks as she read the words again and again. Nicole had been alive all this time. She had been trying to get back. She had not forgotten. The message continued, saying that Nicole had just managed to get the ship running again after years of hard work and difficult repairs. She was heading back to Zephyra Prime. It would take another 6 months to reach the planet, but she was coming. She had never forgotten Akira. She had kept a photo of the Zephyran princess in her cabin the entire time they were stranded. She had told the crew about the incredible alien woman who had shown her friendship when the humans were far from home and needed hope most. Akira moved through the palace like a woman in a dream after reading that message. She told her father the news. King Valorian had smiled for the first time in many months. He had taken his daughter's hand and told her that he had always believed she was right to have faith. He said that true friendship knows no boundaries of space or time. When Akira told the council that Captain Nicole Matthews was returning, their reactions were mixed. Some were interested in the medical technology that might come with the human ship. Others were skeptical, wondering if this was simply false hope. But Akira did not care what they thought anymore. Nicole was coming home. After 10 years of waiting, her patience was about to be rewarded. She moved to the old landing pad where Nicole's ship had first arrived all those years ago. She stood where she had stood that first day and remembered every detail. She remembered how afraid she had been, how unsure about meeting a creature from another world. She remembered how Nicole had stepped down from the ship with a smile so warm and genuine that all fear had melted away. Now, after a decade of waiting and wondering, that smile would soon shine on her again. The 6 months that followed, the distress signal seemed to move as slowly as frozen time. Akira tried to keep herself busy with the responsibilities of running the kingdom, but her mind was always somewhere else. She was among the stars with Nicole, trapped on that damaged ship, working hard to repair it and make the journey home. She imagined the difficulties they must have faced, the challenges of surviving so far from any help or supplies. Nicole was such a strong person, Akira thought. If anyone could survive those conditions, it would be her. Akira spent her days in the throne room listening to petitions from nobles and common people alike. She made decisions about grain distribution during the plague season. She approved trade agreements with neighboring star systems. She reviewed the military reports about the defense forces that protected Zephyra Prime from threats. But her evenings were different. Every evening she went to the highest tower and looked up at the stars, counting the days until Nicole's return. She had calculated exactly when the human ship should arrive based on the message and the distance between the two worlds. The council members began to notice the change in the princess. Some said she had finally come to her senses. They hoped that now that she knew Nicole was coming, she would be ready to consider marriage again. After all, they reasoned, if the human captain returned and nothing came of it, then Akira could move forward with her life and duty to find a proper mate from among the noble families of Zephyra Prime. They brought forward more suitors, handsome and powerful men from the most important houses. They arranged meetings and dinners hoping to catch Akira's attention. Akira met with these men politely but without interest. They talked about politics and power and the glory of their family names. They spoke of military campaigns and trade routes and the expansion of Zephyran influence across the galaxy. None of it meant anything to her. She could not imagine spending her life with any of them. She could not imagine having conversations with them under the stars, talking about dreams and fears the way she had talked with Nicole. These men saw her as a princess, a title and a position. Nicole had seen her as Akira, just as herself. Nothing more and nothing less. One night, her mother came to find her on the tower. Queen Celestina was older now, her once bright eyes a little dimmer, but her love for her daughter remained strong and true. She sat beside Akira and looked out at the same stars her daughter was watching. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, the queen said that she understood what Akira was feeling. She said that many years ago, before she had married the king, she had loved someone who was very different from her. That person had had to leave, and she had thought she would never see them again. But she had learned that sometimes love and friendship are worth waiting for, no matter how long it takes. She told Akira that she was proud of her daughter for being brave enough to believe in something when no one else did. Akira had cried then, holding her mother's hand. She had asked her mother if she thought Nicole felt the same way about her. The Queen had smiled and said that she could see it in the words of the message Nicole had sent. A person who had been stranded for 5 years and still thought of Akira constantly was a person who cared deeply. The Queen had said that sometimes in life, we meet people who change us, who become more important than anything else in the world. She had said that Akira was one of the lucky ones because she had found such a person. The other members of the royal family had not been so supportive. Prince Kale had spoken to Akira several times, trying to convince her that she was making a mistake. He said that aliens could never truly be trusted, that humans were unpredictable and dangerous. He pointed out that the political situation on Zephyr Prime was unstable, and that Akira needed to make choices that would strengthen the kingdom, not weaken it. He suggested that Akira might be confusing gratitude for friendship with something stronger and more complicated. He told her that she was letting emotions cloud her judgment as a ruler. But Akira had learned long ago not to listen to her brother's doubts. She knew what she felt, and she knew that it was real. She had spent 10 years waiting, 10 years hoping, 10 years believing that Nicole would return. She had given up the chance at marriages and alliances that could have made her life simpler and more politically advantageous. She had disappointed the council and caused concern to her parents. But she had done all of this because something inside her was absolutely certain about Nicole and about what their friendship meant. As the weeks turned into months, Akira began to prepare the palace for Nicole's arrival. She ordered the guest chambers to be cleaned and decorated beautifully. She arranged for the best food and drinks to be ready for the human crew. She gathered information about human customs and traditions so that she could make sure everything was done properly. She even learned some old human songs from the databases Nicole had left behind, songs that Nicole loved and had shared with Akira years ago. She planned to sing them when Nicole arrived. The scientists of Zephyr Prime were also preparing. King Valorian had organized meetings between Akira and the leading doctors and healers of the kingdom. They wanted to understand what new medicines and technologies Nicole might bring. They hoped to work together with the human medical team to finally defeat the plague that had been killing their people for so long. There was excitement in the air, a sense that something important and wonderful was about to happen. But beneath all the excitement and preparation, Akira felt nervous. What if Nicole had changed? What if 10 years and the hardship of being stranded had made her different? What if she no longer felt the same connection to Akira that she once had? What if returning to Zephyr Prime and seeing Akira again disappointed her somehow? These worries kept Akira awake at night even as she counted down the days. She told herself that such thoughts were silly, that true friendship could not be destroyed by time or distance. But doubt, once it crept in, was hard to push away. Still, she continued to wait, continued to hope, continued to prepare for the moment when Nicole's ship would finally appear in the sky above Zephyr Prime. The morning that Nicole's ship appeared on the sensors, Akira knew it immediately. The guards came running to tell her that a vessel was entering the outer atmosphere, but she already felt it in her heart. After 10 years of waiting, after months of careful preparation, after so many nights spent looking up at the stars, the moment had finally come. Nicole was here. The human captain had kept her promise. Akira dressed carefully that morning, though she told herself she was not doing it for any particular reason. She wore the silver robes that Nicole had admired years ago, the traditional ceremonial clothes of Zephyr Prime royalty. The fabric caught the light beautifully, and it made her silver skin shimmer like starlight. She arranged her long purple hair with care, weaving small crystals through the strands the way the palace attendants had taught her. She painted the traditional markings on her face, the symbols that showed her status and her heritage as a princess of the realm. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like a royal, yes, but she also looked nervous and excited and hopeful all at the same time. She went to the landing pad where Nicole's ship had first touched down 10 years ago. It was the same place where she had said goodbye to the human captain, the same place where she had watched Nicole's ship rise into the sky and disappear into the void. Now standing there again after so many years, Akira felt tears forming in her violet eyes. She wiped them away quickly, not wanting to appear weak or too emotional when Nicole arrived. But her hands were shaking, and her heart was beating so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The sun was high in the sky when Nicole's ship began to descend through the atmosphere. The roar of the engines shook the ground beneath Akira's feet. The ship was larger than Akira remembered, or perhaps it simply looked different now against the familiar landscape of her home. The vessel was scarred and battle-worn, showing the damage from years of hardship in space. Parts of the hull had been repaired with materials that did not quite match the original construction. But the ship was still beautiful to Akira because it was the ship that had brought Nicole, the ship that had brought her friend back home. As the ship descended lower and lower, Akira found herself holding her breath. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times. She had imagined what she would say, how she would greet Nicole, what her expression would be when she first saw her again. But now that the moment was actually happening, all her careful plans seemed to disappear like smoke. She forgot the words she had prepared. She forgot the formal greeting she was supposed to give. She only knew that Nicole was about to step out of that ship, and she could not wait another second to see her. The ship landed with a gentle thud on the landing pad. The engines powered down and silence fell over the area. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the doors began to open with a slow hiss of air. A ramp descended to the ground. And then finally, after 10 years of waiting, after 1,000 nights of looking at the stars and wondering if she would ever see Nicole again, Captain Nicole Matthews walked down that ramp. She looked different than Akira remembered. She was older, with new lines around her eyes and some gray streaks in her dark hair. Her face was more weathered, marked by the years of hardship and struggle in space. She wore a uniform that was worn and faded, and she moved with a slight limp as though one of her legs had been injured at some point. But when Nicole's blue eyes found Akira standing on the landing pad, her entire face lit up with a smile so bright and so warm that Akira felt her heart would melt. In that moment, none of the time that had passed mattered. In that moment, they were the same two women who had stood on this landing pad 10 years ago, saying goodbye with the promise that they would see each other again. Other crew members began to descend the ramp behind Nicole, both human and some Zephyrins who had apparently joined Nicole's crew during her travels. There were guards and scientists and medical personnel, all moving with the purpose of people who had somewhere important to be. But Nicole seemed to see none of them. Her eyes were only on Akira. She began to walk forward, and then she was walking faster, and then she was running. Akira had never seen her friend move so quickly, the limp forgotten in the urgency of the moment. Akira ran forward too, her silver robes flowing behind her like wings. All the formality she had planned to maintain, all the royal dignity she was supposed to show disappeared in the face of her joy. She ran toward Nicole with tears streaming down her face, her heart pounding in her chest. They met in the middle of the landing pad, and Nicole caught Akira in her arms, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around. Akira wrapped her arms around Nicole's neck, burying her face against her shoulder. She breathed in the scent of Nicole, a scent she remembered from years ago, a scent that had lingered in her dreams and memories. Neither of them spoke. There were no words that seemed big enough or important enough for this moment. They simply held each other, and that was everything that needed to be said. Around them, crew members and guards and members of the royal court stood silent, watching this reunion between two women from different worlds. Some of them smiled, understanding the depth of the emotion on display. Others looked confused or uncertain, not quite knowing what they were witnessing. But no one dared to interrupt. After a long time, Nicole finally put Akira down, though she did not release her. She held Akira's hands and looked at her face carefully, as though trying to memorize every detail. She said Akira's name, just that one word, but it contained so much emotion and longing and relief that Akira felt fresh tears spring to her eyes. She said Nicole's name back, and her voice was soft and trembling. They looked at each other for a long moment, and in that look was all the pain of 10 years of separation and all the joy of finally being reunited. King Valorian emerged from the palace then, moving slowly with his attendants supporting him. He walked toward Nicole with a warm smile on his face. He welcomed her back to Zephyra Prime and thanked her for returning, despite the difficulties she had faced. He spoke of the hope that her arrival would bring to his people. He spoke of the friendship between their two worlds. And as he spoke, Akira kept holding Nicole's hand, unable to let go, afraid that if she released that hand, her friend might somehow disappear again into the stars. That evening, after the formal welcoming ceremonies and celebrations, Akira took Nicole to the highest tower of the palace. This was the place where Akira had spent so many nights during the years of waiting. This was the place where she had stared up at the stars and wondered about Nicole and thought about their friendship and held on to hope when everything seemed impossible. She wanted Nicole to see this place, to understand how important it had been to her, to know that she had never stopped thinking about the human captain who had become so dear to her heart. Nicole climbed the spiral stairs slowly, and Akira could see that the journey was tiring for her. The years in space, the damage to her body, the hardship of repairing the ship with limited resources had all taken their toll. But when Nicole reached the top of the tower and looked out at the landscape of Zephyra Prime stretched out below them, under the light of the three suns, she gasped with wonder. She said that she had forgotten how beautiful this world was, that no matter how many planets she had visited in her travels, nothing quite compared to the breathtaking beauty of Zephyra Prime. They sat together on a stone bench that had been placed on the tower's edge years ago. The wind blew gently around them, carrying the scent of the crystal flowers that grew in the palace gardens far below. They did not speak for a long time. Sometimes the most important conversations do not need words. But eventually Nicole began to tell her story. She told Akira about the accident near the black hole, about the terrible moment when the ship's systems had begun to fail. She described the crushing fear of knowing that they might die in space, far from home and help. She told Akira how she had thought of the princess during those dark hours, how she had clung to the memory of Akira's face and Akira's kindness to keep herself going. Nicole explained how the crew had worked for years to repair the ship, laboring in conditions that were sometimes freezing and sometimes uncomfortably hot. There had been failures and setbacks. One crew member had died when a critical system exploded during a repair attempt. Another had become ill from radiation exposure and had taken years to recover. They had rationed their food and water carefully. They had fixed broken systems with improvised parts. There had been days when Nicole had wondered if they would ever make it home at all, but then, she said, something remarkable had happened. They had encountered a friendly alien civilization, not hostile like some of the species they had met in their travels. These aliens had been interested in trade and cooperation. They had provided some materials that helped Nicole repair her ship's communication systems. With the communication system working, Nicole had been able to send the distress signal to Zephyra Prime. That signal had taken months to reach the planet, but it had finally arrived. And then, having made contact again with the outside universe, Nicole had found new motivation to complete the repairs. Akira listened to every word, holding on to Nicole's hand as she spoke. She could see the exhaustion in Nicole's eyes, could see the weight of 10 years of struggle written on her face. But she could also see something else, something that made her heart swell with hope and joy. She could see that through all of that difficulty and pain, Nicole had never stopped thinking about her. Nicole had kept a photograph of Akira in her cabin. Nicole had told the crew about the Princess of Zephyra Prime. Nicole had held on to the memory of their friendship as though it were a precious jewel. When Nicole had finished telling her story, Akira began to tell hers. She told Nicole about the 10 years of waiting, about the pressure from the council to marry and have children and move on with her life. She told Nicole about how she had refused every suitor, about how her family had sometimes worried that she was throwing away her life on a promise made by someone who might never return. She told Nicole about the nights she had spent on this very tower, looking up at the stars and believing that somewhere out there, Nicole was fighting to come back. She told Nicole about her studies of Earth and human culture, about learning the human language and reading everything she could find about humans and their ways. She told Nicole about conversations with her mother, who had understood the depth of what Akira was feeling. She told Nicole about her responsibilities as princess, about the decisions she had to make every day about the welfare of her people. She told Nicole about the plague that had returned after Nicole's medicine had run out, about how the people of Zephyra Prime had been suffering and dying. She told Nicole that the biggest pain during those 10 years had not been the loneliness or the pressure from the council or the burden of responsibility, but rather the uncertainty about whether Nicole was even still alive. As Akira spoke, tears fell from her violet eyes and fell onto the stone floor of the tower. Nicole reached over and gently wiped the tears away with her hand. She said that she was sorry that Akira had had to wait so long, sorry that she had not been able to return sooner, sorry that she had been trapped in space, unable to send messages or let Akira know that she was alive and struggling to return. She said that if she had known that Akira was waiting, if she had known how much Akira cared, it would have given her strength during those terrible years. She said that she had wondered often whether Akira had moved on, whether the princess had found someone else, whether Akira still remembered their friendship. Akira shook her head firmly. She said that she could never forget Nicole, that their friendship was not something that could fade or be replaced. She said that she had known, deep down in her heart, that Nicole would keep her promise to return. She said that even when everyone else had doubted, she had believed. She said that all the years of waiting had been worth it because now Nicole was here. Now they could continue the friendship that had been interrupted so long ago. They sat together on that tower until the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of red and purple and orange. Nicole put her arm around Akira's shoulders and Akira leaned against Nicole's side. They looked out at the beautiful world of Zephyra Prime, at the crystal spires and the vast landscapes that stretched out in every direction. They did not need to talk anymore. They were together again, and that was enough. The days and weeks that followed Nicole's arrival were filled with activity and hope. Nicole's medical team worked closely with the best healers and scientists of Zephyra Prime. They began developing new treatments for the plague that had been ravaging the kingdom. The medicines that Nicole had brought were more advanced than anything Zephyra Prime had ever seen. Combined with the knowledge and experience of the local doctors, these medicines began to show remarkable results. The plague that had seemed unstoppable began to slow and then to retreat. Patients who had seemed hopeless began to recover. The people of Zephyra Prime began to believe that they might actually defeat this terrible disease that had killed so many of their loved ones. But for Akira, the most important thing was not the medical breakthroughs or the scientific achievements. The most important thing was that Nicole was here, that they could spend time together, that they could talk and laugh and simply exist in each other's presence. Every day, Akira made time to be with Nicole, no matter how busy she was with her responsibilities as princess. They would walk through the palace gardens in the morning, when the crystal flowers were opening to greet the three suns. They would sit in the library in the afternoon, where Nicole would read about Zephyran history and culture while Akira worked on matters of state. They would spend the evenings on the high tower, watching the stars come out one by one, talking about everything and nothing. Nicole told Akira stories about her life on Earth, about the cities where she had lived and the people she had known before she became a space captain. She told Akira about her dreams of exploring the galaxy and discovering new worlds. She told Akira about the fear she had felt when her ship had been damaged near the black hole, and the determination that had kept her working toward repair and recovery. She told Akira about her crew members, the humans and aliens who had become like family to her during the long years of being stranded. She told Akira that she had talked about her so much that the entire crew knew her name and stories about her, even though most of them had never met her. Akira told Nicole about the kingdom and the challenges that she had faced as princess. She told Nicole about the difficult decisions she had had to make, about times when she had doubted herself and wondered if she was strong enough to lead her people. She told Nicole about her family, about her father, the king, who was slowly recovering from his illness, about her mother, who had always believed that Akira was right to wait for Nicole to return, about her brother Kale, who had worried about her but had eventually come to understand her choices. She told Nicole about the council members and nobles who had pressured her to marry, about how she had refused them all because her heart belonged to someone else. As she said those last words, Akira felt her face flush with embarrassment. She had not meant to reveal so much, but the words had come out before she could stop them. Nicole looked at Akira with surprise and then with tenderness in her blue eyes. She reached over and took Akira's hand and asked her what she meant by those words. Akira's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. She had been waiting for Nicole for 10 years, had refused every suitor, had dedicated herself to keeping faith in a promise that everyone had doubted. But now that the moment had come to speak her truth, she was afraid. She was afraid that Nicole might not feel the same way, that Nicole's feelings might be just friendship, while hers had become something more. But before Akira could try to explain or take back her words, Nicole squeezed her hand gently. Nicole told her that during all those long years in space, the memory of Akira had sustained her. Nicole told her that every time she felt hopeless or afraid or exhausted from the endless work of repair, she had thought about Akira waiting on Zephyra Prime, waiting and believing that Nicole would return. Nicole told her that she had looked at Akira's photograph so many times that her crew had teased her about it. Nicole told her that she had wondered whether Akira might feel something more than friendship, but she had not dared to hope, had not dared to believe that an alien princess could ever care for her in the way that she cared for Akira. Akira felt tears of joy flowing down her silver cheeks. She asked Nicole if she was saying what she thought she was saying. Nicole smiled, that same warm and genuine smile that had captured Akira's heart 10 years ago. Nicole said that she was saying that she loved Akira, that she had loved Akira from the moment they met, that the years of separation had only made that love grow stronger. Nicole said that she did not know if such a thing was even possible between two beings from different worlds, but she knew that what she felt was real and true and not going away. Akira moved closer to Nicole, and for the first time since Nicole had arrived on Zephyra Prime, they kissed. It was a gentle kiss, tender and full of all the emotions they had carried for so long. When they separated, both of them were crying and laughing at the same time. They held each other on that high tower, under the light of the three suns with the entire galaxy spread out before them. They knew that there would be challenges ahead, that their love was unusual and that not everyone would understand or accept it, but they did not care. They had waited 10 years for this moment, had believed in their connection when it seemed impossible, had sacrificed so much to be together again. Over the following months, Nicole's ship was fully repaired and became a research vessel based on Zephyra Prime. The crew members decided to stay, establishing a permanent exchange program between Earth and Zephyra Prime. The plague was defeated, and the people of both worlds began a new era of cooperation and friendship. But most importantly, Akira and Nicole were no longer separated by the vast distances of space. They could wake up together in the morning. They could hold hands as they walked through the palace gardens. They could sit on the high tower at night and look up at the stars, no longer wondering when they would see each other, but simply enjoying the gift of being together. Akira sometimes thought about those 10 years of waiting, about the pain and doubt and loneliness. But she never regretted a single moment, because every moment of waiting had led to this, to being with Nicole, to finding love across the stars. She realized that some promises are more than just words. Some promises are acts of faith, tests of whether we truly believe in something worth believing in. She and Nicole had both kept their promise. Both held on to hope when the universe seemed determined to keep them apart. And in the end, their faith had been rewarded with something more precious than either of them could have imagined.